Welcome back to This Week in Politics here on KSFY. We are now just under the 2-week mark for the White House and congressional Democrats to find some sort of common ground on border wall funding. If there is no agreement come February 15th, one of two things could happen: another federal government shutdown, or the president using executive power to declare a national emergency at the U.S.-Mexico border. And under that emergency order, the White House would then try to allocate federal funds for border wall construction. As we wait to see what happens, there is another concern some in Washington have regarding the shutdown. And that concern involves reported cyber attacks that targeted government computers during the shutdown. Minnesota Senator Amy Klobuchar says she wants to know how many attacks there were and who was behind them.
Well, during the shutdown, it turns out that 45% of those doing cybersecurity and homeland security were furloughed, if you can imagine this. And during that time, 80 websites had warnings on them or were taken down. Websites that said things like you would see on sleazy websites. That said things, proceed at your own risk. These were U.S. government websites. And what we know from the 2013 shutdown is that Chinese actually successfully got in to the federal election website. So our concern is that may have happened, and not only that, I've asked with a bunch of senators, I led a letter asking them exactly what happened, how are you going to stop it from happening again, and how many breaches or attempts to breach did we see?
We will, of course, be keeping an eye out on if Senator Klobuchar gets any answers from Homeland Security. Also in Washington, lawmakers say they want answers about why the price of insulin doubled between 2012 and 2016. For many, insulin for a month now costs $1,100, leading many to ration their insulin, taking less than prescribed so it will last longer. Iowa Senator Chuck Grassley says pharmaceutical companies need to provide a clear explanation as to why the price has risen so much so fast.
And I intend to specifically get to the bottom of the insulin price increase.
In November of 2016, members of Congress asked the Attorney General's office and the Federal Trade Commission to make official inquiries into what was happening with the price of insulin. So far, neither has taken formal action. In Minnesota this week, a move to legalize recreational marijuana in the state. The main sponsors are Democratic members of the State House and the State Senate. But a surprising co-sponsor is a Republican lawmaker, Scott Jensen, who serves in the Senate and is also a general practice doctor. He says legalizing pot in Minnesota would be a good thing because it would then put the drug under the jurisdiction of the state.
I would give a shout out to former Minneapolis Mayor R.T. Ryback in his column yesterday in the newspaper, where he said simply because we legalize something doesn't mean it's good for you. He said legalization has to be partnered with prevention. And I really believe that. And I think this is why Senator Franzen wants to get this out in front of people, so that as we talk about the legalization process and the regulation process, so that I can maybe quit seeing kids come in on a Monday or Tuesday, or maybe adults that ran into some, quote, bad stuff that isn't regulated because of the production.
The Minnesota House is democratically controlled, but Republicans do have the majority in the Minnesota Senate. And the Senate Majority Leader says it is doubtful the chamber will take action on the proposal this year. Coming up next on This Week in Politics, Kamala Harris meets with voters in Iowa, and a well-known California politician says he will not seek the presidency in 2020. Road to the White House coverage is next.